Hey guys, today I'm finally going to be filming my spoiler discussion on Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. This is the third book in the Infernal Devices series, which is the prequel series to The Mortal Instruments, also by Cassandra Clare. This is going to be a spoiler discussion, it's not really a review, and really it's just going to be more of me kind of getting my thoughts out about the ending, pretty much for the most part. So if you have not yet read and finished Clockwork Princess, then don't watch this video, you will be spoiled, and I really don't want to be the cause of anybody being spoiled for this book because there are quite a few twists and turns and things that I wasn't expecting to happen that did. I unfortunately spoiled myself because I have this sick, twisted need to know what's going to happen, so often I will flip ahead a few pages to see what's going to happen in the next chapter, so often I'll flip ahead and see when a character comes back. Often I will read the last page of a book just to see if two characters end up together. I know, it's a sick problem. I've pretty much been doing it since I was in high school. It's really not going to change. I'm gonna zoom out because you're like really close to me and I think my dress is kind of cute today. It's a sick problem that I have, and I honestly don't think that me reading ahead really ruined anything for me because I was still emotionally touched by everything that happened. But I wish I hadn't because it might have been more of kind of a shock to me and I might have gotten more emotion than I did. So I'm just telling you guys, please don't spoil yourself and watch this video. Even if you don't think you're gonna continue this series, I definitely recommend that you try it. If you didn't like Mortal Instruments, try the Infernal Devices. If you weren't really crazy about the first book, Clockwork Angel, definitely go on because Clockwork Prince is really where I became obsessed with this trilogy. And really the Mortal Instruments, Shadowhunters world in general. I love the Mortal Instruments. I'm on book 5. I love those. I'm not one of those people that doesn't like them. But the second book is what really got me kind of crazy about the whole Shadowhunter world and pretty much everything that's going to come of it. And so, yeah, that's kind of a long intro already. But if you haven't yet read this book, Clockwork Princess, I haven't even showed it yet, please don't keep watching and go read it or read the series and then come back and watch this and we can discuss. So, bye if you haven't read the book yet. So, mostly this is really just going to be me kind of being crazy about the ending. If you've read this book, I mean, hopefully you have if you're watching this part of the video, then you know this book is crazy. I'm going to talk a little bit about my feelings about the other parts of the book, but I'm going to do that last. It's been about a week since I have read and been ruined by this book. Ruined, such a bad word, but it's been a week since I've read this book, so I've had a little bit of time to simmer, but I'm just going to kind of tell you guys what I'm thinking about the ending. First thing you should know is that I'm one of the people that can't pick between Jem and Will. I can't, and I thought it was so obvious in Clockwork Angel. I saw a Tumblr post because I spent about 5 hours on Tumblr after I finished this book. There was a Tumblr post that I saw where someone said, how I feel during Clockwork Angel. Obviously Will's the right one, like screw Jem, like no. And then Clockwork Prince, oh my god Jem, oh my god Will, wow, Jem's okay, like really like him, and Will, oh my god, poor Will. And then the last book you're like, who do I choose? I pretty much have loved both boys since the second book, since Clockwork Prince. I love both. I guess I ship Heron Grey Stairs. I think that's what their ship name is, although I don't ship Will and Jem romantically. I think that they're the best group of best friends I have ever read about. I ship Will and Tessa. I ship Jem and Tessa. I ship all three of them with Will and Jem as friends. Basically, I can't pick. I can't pick between the two boys. I just feel like Tessa didn't have to pick, really. I shouldn't have to pick. But it's just hard because I usually can pick. I usually feel very strongly one way or the other, and I felt so strongly about both boys. I love them both, and I get kind of upset when people are mean about either one of them because I love them both, and I'm happy with the way the end of the book turned out. I am. Originally, I felt this strong sadness about the end of the book, which I kind of wrote down a couple reasons why I think that might have happened. I think the biggest reason I felt so sad when the book was over was, I think it was more the fact that we hear about the future when Will passes away of old age, which is not really something you think about when you're reading a book, like a contemporary book. You pretty much just think of the characters as, you know, young forever. At least I don't. When I'm reading a romance book, I don't really think about the future when they might die. I just think of them being immortalized and they're young forever because that's how I read about them. But hearing about Will's death from old age, it kind of like hits you in the face a little bit and it makes it more real to you and it actually makes you think about it. So we went through 3 books of Will's snarky and sarcastic comments. We went through his wittiness and his sweetness and his just everything perfect about Will. We fell in love with him more and more every day. And while we knew in the back of our minds logically that he had to die eventually because these books take place in the 1800s, it still doesn't really hit us. We don't expect to hear about it. It doesn't hit us until we're brought back to present day in the epilogue when Tessa kind of gives us a rundown of her life with Will and his passing away and what she did after his death and how she grieved for him and all that stuff. It really doesn't hit us until then. And the fact of the matter is that she's still around and kicking, and so is Jem, really. I felt the loss, you know? Like, it was almost as bad as if Will had died in battle, really, because we still heard about it, even if it was, you know, just old age, you know, life running its course. It just hurts, and I think that's why I was truly so sad after I read it. Not because I was unhappy with the ending, because I was really happy with the ending, you know. If I loved both boys, and if there was a way to give her both, then this was definitely the way to do it. But it still hurts, because instead of just knowing and assuming, we had to read about it, and it became more real to us as readers. I'm saying us. I don't know if everybody else feels this way. I'm just talking about me, really. Thankfully, the last hours will give us a lot of Will and Tessa as a couple and in love. I'm really excited about that trilogy. I think it's going to be a trilogy. It's going to take place after the events of the Infernal Devices. So not only do we get that, but we also get Will and Tessa in the present day stuff and in those cute little Shadowhunter Academy stories. I wasn't even planning to read those originally, but I know that there's some little Jem and Tessa scenes, so we get that for Jem and Tessa, and we also get the last hours with Will and Tessa, so that's really nice. As I said before, I was really, really happy with the ending. This was Cassandra Clare's way of giving everybody what they wanted, and I know that some people who very strongly ship one or the other were not very happy with this, because I've heard some people say, you know, I hate how Jem and Tessa ended up together. Which is true, they did, but so did Tessa and Will. They ended up together first. It's because everything happened with Jem having to be a brother and stuff, but it's kind of like, that was just the way it was meant to be, you know? Like the story says, some people are lucky to find one great love in their life, but Tessa had two, and she got to have them both at different times. They were right for her at different times in her life, and I just feel like that was a really good way to do it. As I said before, as I've been saying this whole time, I love both Jem and Will, and I love them differently, and I think they're both perfect for Tessa in different ways. But I do think that Will is probably better suited for Tessa as far as their personalities and their similarities and stuff. I think they match each other a little bit better. But I do think that Will and Tessa were also well matched just in the way that they just loved each other both so unconditionally. And they fell more in love with each other every single day. And I loved that about them. I didn't see them on a platonic level. It's not one of those things. I really feel like they were right for each other in different ways than Will and Tessa were. Which makes me glad that Will got Tessa first because they got to have a long and happy life together, and I feel like in some ways I feel like Will was probably better suited for Tessa just as far as personality and stuff. Their personalities just matched each other so perfectly, I feel like. So the other thing that I wanted to mention was, as I said, I have heard several people say, like, oh, I can't believe that Jem and Tessa ended up together, which, again, she ended up with both of them, so it's really not one or the other, you know? They both got to be with her. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing as a widow remarrying later on, you know? We fall in love with the original spouse, but, you know, sometimes things happen, old age comes, and it's really like the same thing as a widow, you know, getting remarried. So why shouldn't Tessa remarry? She's immortal. She's gonna be alive forever. So why not marry Jem, the only other man in her life that she's ever loved, that Will also loves? Why not marry him instead of some other random guy? I feel like Will would want that, because as with Jem, when he found out that Will and Tessa had feelings for each other, then he told Will that if he couldn't have Tessa, he wouldn't trust her with anybody else but Will. He wouldn't want anybody else but Will to be with her. And I feel like Will would want that. I feel like Will would feel the same way. You know, I don't think he would want Tessa to be alone and grieving and miserable for the rest of her life. I think that he would want her to be with Jem if she could. And since she can, I really think that that's fair, you know what I mean? I understand if you really just don't like Jem as a character, and I know some people don't. I really don't see how that's possible, because I thought he was just such a kind-hearted, sweet man, but I know some people don't, and that's totally fine, because, you know, we all have different opinions, and we can all still talk about this and still be friends, because, you know, if we were all the same, life would be boring. As I said before, they were both with her when it was the right time for them to be with her. In the beginning, it just wasn't the right time for Jem to be with Tessa. It was the right time for Will to be with Tessa. And when it was the right time for her to be with Jem, she gets to be with Jem, which is the present time, which I think is a really good way to look at things. And I'm happy that Tessa and Jem finally get to be together without any fear of illness or anything. Again, Jem's still gonna die of old age eventually like Will did, but you know, at least she gets to be happy with both of them at some point. And you know, Jem and Tessa went through a lot. So did Will, but they went through a ton of heartbreak with Jem's illness and all, like, Tessa loving both and all that stuff. And so I'm just happy that they finally get to be together. They deserve this. They deserve happiness after all of that crap. The only thing that I didn't like was that at the very end of the book, how it says that things came full circle in the end, which I really didn't like because that kind of made me feel like Will was second best, and he wasn't. I don't think he was, and I don't think he was meant to be. So that's the only thing that did bother me about the epilogue, is that one line, because I really don't think Will was second best, and I don't like feeling like he was, because it's bad enough that, like, if you think about it, like, he only got to be with Tessa because Jem either was going to die or he became a silent brother. It is sad, but I don't feel like Will is second best, but that line kind of makes it seem like he was. So that's the only problem that I really had with the epilogue. I'm also kind of sad that, you know, yes, Jem and Tessa get to be together when Jem finally finds a cure, but I'm kind of upset that Jem and Will never got to be reunited. I know Jem was there when Will died, but it's just kind of like, yeah, they never got a chance to be reunited. Just kind of a bummer. Again, I just really enjoyed the ending. I was happy with it, and now that I've had a week to kind of sit on it, I feel really good about the book. I'm gonna actually hold it up because I have not held it up at all, but I feel really good about the book, and I'm really happy with the way it ended. I gave it 5 stars. This was one of the best books that I read this year. It's in my top 5 books of the year that I don't think I've posted yet, but anyway, I really enjoyed this, and I feel like it was wrapped up so well. There was never a dull moment in this book. I cried so much. And it's so funny because if you follow me on Goodreads, I was pretty much live posting about this every now and then whenever I felt like I had something I needed to say. I was like freaking out about this book. This caused me just a lot of like feelings. About like maybe a third or something of the way through, I said, you know, like, I don't really cry in books that much anymore, but this makes me want to cry just during the whole thing because it's just so sad. I'm like, my heart's going out for these characters. They're in misery. I don't know how they're gonna get out of any of this, any of them, not just, you know, Will, Jem, and Tessa, like anybody. And then there's just a sequence of parts in this book, guys, that I just, you know what I'm talking about, kind of towards like the middle end-ish part. There are just so many different goodbye scenes and like things like that, and I just sobbed for basically the time, like, okay, Will and Jem saying goodbye, you know, Jem dying or being broken from Will, and like when Will and Jem actually said goodbye when Jem was a brother, and when Jem and Tessa said goodbye when Jem was a brother, and I'm not kidding you, the goodbye between Jem and Will when he was a brother and he was really saying goodbye, I don't think I've cried that hard in a book in God only knows how long. I was weeping, I was sobbing, my makeup was just a mess, and I was just like sitting in my room like one of those kind of cries, and it was just so embarrassing. I was trying not to make any noise and my nose was all stuffed up, and it was just so, thankfully I was alone. I'm glad nobody heard me because I was just a mess, guys. It was so just, pretty much didn't stop crying for like 50 pages. It was just a lot. Other things I really enjoyed about this book were Gabriel and Cecily. It's so funny because I didn't really like Cecily at first. I found her to be the annoying little sister, but then she really grew into her own when she realized that shadow hunting was what she wanted to do, and when she realized that really this was Will's family and he was meant to do this. I really appreciated that, and I'm glad, like, her and Gabriel I just thought were so cute, especially when they're with their first kiss, and how she threw his lines back at him when, like, about how he said he rated her a 5 in her training, and so she kind of threw that back at him. I thought that was so cute and hilarious, and I love that Gabriel ends up a good guy in the end because I actually really liked him when he became a good guy and when he was kind of going through that redemption. The other thing I really loved, Charlotte and Henry, I mean, they kind of fix everything in Clockwork Prince, but I loved them in this book because they had kind of resolved all their issues in the book before, so I really liked seeing them interact, and I thought they were so sweet. And then Gideon and Sophie, I've pretty much been rooting for them since they kind of started interacting in Clockwork Prince, so I was just really happy about everything. I was really happy about this book. I was really happy about how everything turned out, and I just thought it was amazing. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Please don't get mad at me if you don't agree with my opinion. It's totally fine to have disagreeing opinions as long as you don't leave malicious comments about it. If you don't agree, that's totally fine. I would love to hear if you don't agree. But let's discuss it in, you know, discussion ways and not just, you're wrong, you suck, no, Jessa, Wessa, all the way. I hate those couple names, by the way. That's why I always say Will and Tessa versus Jem and Tessa. But let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear your thoughts, but let's talk about it as adults because I know that some people get really heated about this series and their ships for this. So anyway, I would love to hear what you guys think. I hope that you all enjoyed this book as much as I did. I loved it, 5 stars. You'll be hearing all about it again in several other videos. This book is amazing, and I'm so glad that I read it and just really, it means a lot to me, and so yes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you all very soon with another video. Bye everyone!